This is the Equally Yoked Show. Welcome back. I'm your host, Charles, and we're going to be talking about so much that has been happening as of late. If you guys are just joining me, thanks for being here. We're going to be talking about Trump. Of course, we've been on the whole Trump thing for the longest time now. Of course, there's so much that is happening on the front with everything with regards to his presidency, with regards to the deals that he's making, but he is most assuredly on a roll with everything that is happening. We have so much to go over today. We have so much to, I mean, really so much to dive deep into. And we'll start with a couple of things here because I think it's very important to look at, I mean, everything under a scope, because ultimately, those of us who live in America, we want to make sure that we are essentially analyzing this and seeing if it's going to benefit us or if it's going to hurt us. Ultimately, we want to make sure that the policies that are being put into place are correct policies. We're looking at eventually a time where we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. So many beautiful things. And this big, beautiful bill that we're waiting to finalize. Should that get passed, we have no idea. They're planning to move the tax bracket, or rather tax the rich more, which is close to 40%. And so once we get to that sort of point, they said it should be ready around June, maybe July, that they want to get this big, beautiful bill moving forward into a place where it needs to be. Now, this, in theory, will benefit us. I'd like to know your thoughts on this big, beautiful bill, your thoughts on the tax cuts, your thoughts in general on everything that is happening. We're going to be going over so much today. We're talking about the medicine reduction. We're talking about files, an update on files that should be released to the American public. The American hostage that has been released. Yemen shooting another rocket after a ceasefire, or after Yemen supposedly said, hey, no more, we're all done. Okay, no more rockets. We're not going to shoot and attack any ships. And we're going to look at China and the tariff deal that they sort of have come to some type of agreement here. And this Saudi Arabia meeting, this meeting that people are saying that Trump is bought off by Saudi Arabia, that you just give him a bunch of money, he's bought off. Okay, the new investment that they're making into the United States, we'll get to that point, and this insane gift that ties in everything with Trump being bought off. I say that in quotations. I don't think Trump can be bought off, but we'll get there in a moment. And again, if you're just joining me, thanks for being here, guys. I see that some of you are already in the chat messaging. Thank you for being here. Make sure to comment. Make sure to we're going to leave the dialogue open. What you guys think about all this stuff, about the Trump administration, what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Iran, China, Saudi Arabia, all this stuff. I'd like to talk about it. I'd like to just know your thoughts. So, with the first article that we're going to be going over is this big information with regards to medicine. I'm going to read this. Trump says, for many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or rightful answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years that it was research and development costs, and that all these costs were and would be for no reason whatsoever borne by the suckers of America alone. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me. And not with the Republican Party. We're going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., mind you, this was posted 2 days ago, so this has already happened, I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize and, for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world. Our country will finally be treated fairly, and our citizens' healthcare costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything else, the United States will save trillions of dollars. Again, thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. That is some fascinating news, because we're finding out that Trump is making moves to help the American bring their costs down with medical expenses. And this is something that has been tried and failed by this whole campaign of the Democrat Party saying that they're going to lower the prices of drugs, and yet they never follow through. George W. Bush, Clinton, Barack Obama, and nobody ever seemed to have successfully done this. And so we finally have a president with just seems like the willpower to do so is able to successfully bring those drug prices down and make it a balanced playing field within the rest of the economy or within the rest of the world. And so this is something that he has to say. This is him on Sean Hannity's show where he's talking to Hannity on Air Force One. So this is a little bit of insight as to his own words on this subject of medicine. So let's see what he has to say.
Because people are going to be getting a 50 to a 90% reduction in drug prices, not a 0.5%. I remember when I would fight so hard to get a 0.5 point, and I actually had it down a 0.5 point for 1 year, and I was so proud of myself because that never happened before. It was always going up. Drugs only went in one direction, it's up. And now, after studying the industry, it's a very complex industry, but I figured it out, and I said, it's not going to happen. But the Democrats fought very hard to keep the prices of drugs very, very high. They really are to blame for this because they should have done something about it. And when the Republicans went with requests, they said, we're not going to approve it. And now we have a unified Republican Party. But I think the Democrats are going to approve this bill, too, because how are they going to reject a 60, 70, 80% drug cut?
That is, I mean, a phenomenal work by President Trump and the things that he's doing. This is ultimately a jab at the pharmaceutical companies that have constantly propagated, or rather put this propaganda in front of the American population, especially with the food chain, the food chain of the fact that gluten is some of the more dominant food items that you need. And then meat is at the lower end. But you need meat. Make Kamala sober again. Make MAGA back in business. Quite interesting. I wanted to play a clip. I don't think I'm going to do that, but it's basically Tim Walz saying that Kamala Harris was the most qualified person for the job. I mean, tampon Tim, come on. Really. That is just an absurd thing to say. Kamala could not even run the country even when she was vice president. She had no ability, no will to do what is in the favor of the American people. She rejected and despised the American people and put other nations above our own. Definitely wouldn't have been a good idea for us. Tampon Timmy. And so Trump 2028, I don't think this might be his last term unless he decides to change that up. And we might see Vance running for the presidency in 2028. We'll see what that looks like. But on the next sort of clips that we'll play here, we'll play a little bit of Trump just to kind of get more of an idea of what's happening with these drug prices.
I don't think they can.
I think it's going to be huge. The fact that these drugs are, the creation of these drugs, I mean, these companies have to go through a very arduous process to get approval by the government. They spend billions of dollars, and put aside whether or not, quote, people demonize Big Pharma. That's separate and apart.
Why do you think Trump meets the Grim Reaper soon? Why is that? You don't like him? You don't like his policies? You don't like who he is? I'm curious. Is Canada a real country? Of course it is. We want Vivek. Yeah, well, he's actually running for governor of Ohio, or he's going to start running, and he has his own plans for that. So I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy will be shooting for the presidency in 2028. It'd be interesting if he does try to go for that, but I think he wants to stay locally in his own hometown. I think it's Ohio. The Black, Asian, Caucasian ex-McDonald's employee Kamala Harris, who worked there who maybe has never worked there. I mean, we just don't know. McDonald's denies it.
However, we usually end up creating them, and then we end up paying 10 times more, which is crazy.
Well, they used to use that, if I could interrupt, they used to use that as a reason why we were paying 5 and 10 times more than other countries. They say because of research and development. And I'd always say, well, what about you doing research and development for the rest of the world too? Why are we paying for 100%? So we paid 100% for research and development, which, along with other things, believe it or not, raised the price to a point where you were 5 to 10 times higher than the rest of the world. And I told the story today. It was well received. A friend of mine who's slightly overweight, to put it mildly, went to a drugstore in London, and he was able to get one of the fat shots. I call it the fat shots, the jabs, that you lose weight.
By the way, a lot of people laugh at that. Some people get offended by. I don't get offended by anything.
I'm just glad I didn't use his name. He's actually a very rich guy. He's a very successful guy.
He's glad you didn't use his name.
No, he's very happy.
Oh.
He knows exactly who I was talking about. He called. He said, that was interesting. He said he was very concerned that I might use his name. It might slip.
Now, I think that the important thing is that there's so much that is happening on that front with the Food and Drug Administration and things that are changing for the better. And yes, I do agree. He is the best president ever. Really, and truly, in history, in all of history, we look at all the past presidents, especially, we have so many years of Democrat-run presidencies. And the American economy has only suffered tremendously under the Democrats. And yet the baby boomers, not to say that all of them are terrible, but the baby boomers were the ones that did succeed. And they own houses, they own so much more than the young millennial generation. And nothing essentially left for Gen Z at all. And Gen X, completely screwed, but things are getting turned around. And so when we look at some of the other news stories, we have this coming across the pipeline. This is Dan Bongino, FBI releasing files on COVID cover-up, Mar-a-Lago raid, and Epstein case, and more. Let's read some of the description here of what they say. It says here, true transparency. Deputy Director Dan Bongino took to X Saturday to provide an update about the Bureau's transparency and some of the most controversial and highly publicized cases in recent history. The deputy director also detailed efforts aimed at protecting children and removing violent criminals from the U.S. and took on the legacy media for their coverage of the FBI's new director. According to Bongino, the FBI is being cooperative on sensational cases that previous FBI directors clearly slammed the lid on when it came to releasing information. Traditionally, getting detailed information out of the FBI on cases is nearly impossible, or was nearly impossible, even for seasoned crime journalists. However, Bongino listed several highly publicized cases where many questions remain, lending themselves to speculation and conspiracy theories. He wrote, "We're clearing information to Congress and the public as quickly as possible. In just a couple of months since we've sworn in, we've sworn in, we've responded to requests for information on the attack on Representative Scalise and members of Congress." By the way, the members of Congress that stormed this Capitol building, that's a whole nother story, but they need to most certainly be tried for that nonsense. Because I forget the congressman that said he is untouchable because they were handling him, because he was the one defacing some of the stuff. They were assaulting officers, rather. They were assaulting officers during this raid, some of these Congress people. Wild story. We'll probably get to that another time. But it says members of Congress, the Nashville attack, Crossfire Hurricane, the COVID cover-up, and more. We are covering with the DOJ on the Epstein case, and as the AG stated, there are voluminous amounts of downloaded child sexual abuse material that we are dealing with. The former New York cop and podcaster also had a warning for predators illegally in the U.S. And so he goes on to say the workforce has been working overtime to task force operations to remove dangerous illegal aliens from the country. The work continues. The message is clear. If you came here illegally to prey on our citizens, your days here are numbered. He called crimes against children as an FBI priority. Yeah, this is quite important news that they're trying to get out there. There was a clip of the new FBI director. Boy, what's his name? It's just slipping my mind. Anyway, they were reading, or it was a congressional hearing or a hearing, and there was a Senate asking him some questions on the Epstein case, and many other things that very interesting that you should see. Very interesting. His name slips my mind. Chat, if you can remember the new guy, please. I don't know why I can't think of his name. Okay, you say, do you think Trump is a vanilla lover, or is he into some weird stuff? I'd assume some, like, that's interesting that I don't know why you point that out, but that is, I don't know. I don't think any of that is the case. Parliament is on Christmas break still, and he has managed to approve a 44 bill in spending taxation without representation. 10-year garden. Dude, politics is for the birds. Interesting. Abolish synthetic dyes. Tariffs help middle working folks compete at the global level. No more price gouging from pharma. Tough on crime. Yes. Amen to that. He's doing great. Let's see here. How to be a great man of history. I need to know this as soon as possible. Well, I think he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize because of the peace deals that he's made, the things that he's done in the last 100 days. I mean, he brokered the peace right here in India, Pakistan, working out a peace deal. And if he secures the peace deal with Ukraine and Russia, this whole tariff thing with China, that's not necessarily peace, but it could lead to conflict. It could. That's very far out there. But it could. And so let's talk about our next thing, which is American hostage released. He is a dual passport holder, and he was 1 out of 8 total, right? 8 dual passport holders, American Israeli hostages that were taken. Now, it's interesting that during this Middle Eastern visit that Trump had gone to meet with the Saudi prince, Hamas is basically saying, as a gift to your arrival to the Middle East, here is an American Israeli hostage. That is just completely sick. They are sick. Vulgar, wild. It's insane. And even during this time, Yemen had shot a rocket right over their heads. How dumb could they be? There was a complete sort of saying that they were like, okay, we're done. We're done shooting the rockets. We're done. We can't take any more. We're done. And yet what do? They shoot another rocket. I mean, come on. Can you be any more mentally ill? I mean, these guys take drugs on a daily basis. So yeah, they could be more mentally ill. It's unfortunate that they decide to cater to this nonsense. But they're a proxy of Iran. So they're operating under Iran's, direction, of course, to continue doing the nonsense that they want to do. And so before we continue, guys, if you are loving this stream, please like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for doing this. Comments here, because I'm reading your guys' comments. I want to make sure that I get to your guys' stuff here. Imagine not being based in reality. What is not based in reality here? What kind of reality are you living in? What reality are you seeing happening around the world? Is this all false, fake news to you? I don't know. How do you think Trump stays up all night? I have no idea, but I think it's a lot of Coca-Cola. I was going to say Coke, but then everybody's going to get the wrong idea. No, I honestly just think he has a drive. He's always been a businessman. These people like businessmen like Trump, entrepreneurs, they really don't sleep. And so this habit that you continue on, I know this is a not in good, maybe it is a in good faith question. I think you're being a little sarcastic here when you're saying, how do you think Trump stays up at all night? Because you're saying the fact that I mentioned the drugs in Yemen. Anyway, I think it just has to do with his sort of just how he's a businessman. He's always up, always doing these things. Of course he sleeps, of course. But hey, he's in good health. As opposed to Biden, when they did his health check, they lied on all fronts. They're being very transparent in this Trump administration. Now here, let's continue on with this information on the American Israeli that has been released from captivity, Hamas captivity.
Hamas said late today would release the last living American hostage held in Gaza, 21-year-old Idan Alexander from New Jersey, who served in the Israeli military. Israel says there will be no ceasefire during the exchange, and Hamas said that release is scheduled for Tuesday. And, of course, that's the same day President Trump arrives here in Saudi Arabia. So some good news here.
Wild. I mean, this guy looks cracked out. That guy looks absolutely cracked out on the left. So, again, like I said, it's like Hamas is saying, here's your gift for your arrival for the Middle East. And yet, let's just take a step back for a moment and actually consider the fact that there is 59 hostages still held by Hamas. And can you imagine all of the Israeli mothers, fathers, family members of these hostages that are still like, okay, well, they're releasing an American hostages because Trump is visiting the Middle East. But what about our hostages? What about our children? What about our family members? Hamas is absolutely ruthless. They don't care. They'll continue operating under Iranian control as their proxy. Just completely wild. You say here, let's see, do you think the gift of a plane is a bribe? Interesting that you mentioned that, because we'll be talking about that later in this podcast. In short, can Trump be bought off at all? Well, let's take a look at the history of Trump before he was even elected. Otherwise, you could buy Trump off. 3 assassination attempts. There was many that were speculative, that they were possible attempts. Okay, so there's that already. He ultimately was attacked, indicted, physically, of course, and both by the law. He faced over 700 years in prison. And yet the attorney general just said, you know what, we're going to give you a slap on the wrist, basically. And because they couldn't find any charges again, they couldn't really charge him against anything that would get him his sentence. But ultimately, they saw that nothing was going in their favor when they were trying Trump during this time. You say Iranian control and you're doing your laughter emoji. What do you mean Iranian control? What are you laughing about that? Do you think it's not true? You think Hamas is operating under their own directives? They're getting their funding from Iran. They are a known proxy. So I don't understand what's so funny about that. I really don't understand what's funny about that. Maybe I don't know. Maxwell, do you think this is about land? You say, give the land back, you colonizers. Yeah. This is, it's quite interesting. I mean, a lot of people aren't really well versed in any of this stuff with regards to why Israel is under attack by Iran. Some people say it's religion. Some people say it's about the land. Anyway, let's continue on here.
From the region, Tom.
Very good news. Thank you, Lucas. Okay, let's do some analysis. But Molly, maybe get your take on that news. The last living hostage is being released.
That would be remarkable, and I really, truly, deeply hope that that is true. Witkoff is expected to go to Israel. We hope that Ilan Alexander, he's now 21. He was 19 when he was taken hostage, the last living American hostage in Hamas captivity, and hopefully that does come to pass. Ultimately, big things. Lucas Tomlinson there at the end of his report said some good news, and I think that is the case. For the last couple days, the Trump administration on war and peace, on diplomacy, on the...
By the way, TA, you say this guy was being protected by business interests and his political cronies. Actually, he was forsaken by all of the people that he was associated with because he was running for president. Not only the first time, but the second time around, of course. So they tried to get him to stay away from presidency by indicting him, by doing all these things to prevent him from becoming president. I mean, they wanted to send him to jail. All this stuff. So who exactly is it that was protecting him? Give me names. Give me all these names. No, I'm going through a live show. I don't really have time to go doing the research. I have all this stuff sort of laid out of what I want to talk to you guys about. But if you want to put it in the comments, we'll talk about it, of course. You say, of course, back to your other comment, I didn't read that. It says, of course, the plane is a bribe. It's the bribe president. Yeah, we'll go over that in a moment. Why am I watching Fox? It's just more news. You just got to discern what is good and what is bad. I mean, what exactly about this information that I'm looking at here is bad? We just have to discern it all. We'll look at it all.
Economy, teasing ahead to potentially some big headlines to come on trade on Monday. Fascinating, but we definitely hope that Alexander comes home.
Can't be vague, TA. Congress. Say Congress. What Congress? What do you mean Congress? Elaborate a little bit more, please.
Yeah, let's get your take on some of this. We get some.
And you say, Spammo, what? It's clear you don't research on these topics. What topics exactly? Be a little more specific. Come on, guys.
Video here. Let's do the clip of Howard Lutnick on the China negotiations.
So we'll get to that point, but this is sad that we have to sit through watching more days go by with these hostages. It's unfortunate. It really is. And it's unfortunate. But when we look at what's happening in the Middle East, Trump visited Saudi Arabia, and I mean, his entrance, of course, we'll just play this. We'll just comment over it. But this is what this is what he was greeted to, of course. And so, of course, you can say, oh, well, he's bought off. They're doing this whole big O show for him. But of course, it's just out of respect. If you understand the culture of, and we'll get to the whole plane thing, trust me, but if you understand the culture of the Middle East, there are people that love to give, especially you look at Saudi Arabia, they're all about giving, right? They're all about giving their guests and treating them well, whether it's by giving them an insane gift that even them, they couldn't possibly see them having or obtaining themselves. But of course, all of these men are very rich businessmen. There's nothing that could essentially buy Trump off, even with all of this grandeur. This is, of course, out of respect. Trump is the president of the United States. He is essentially the most powerful person in the world. You can disagree with me on that, but country-wise, he is running a country that is extremely powerful. Our military might, our economy, so much is, I mean, look at these guys. But I mean, come on. This is a room full of some of the most renowned business people. But even though the fact that they gave him a plane, again, we'll go over that in a moment, still won't buy Trump off. There he is. Let's take a look at some of your comments. You say, you're from the Middle East. They never give for free. They expect something in return. Not true. Not entirely true. I'm in Cowit. Nothing that could buy Trump off. Are you joking? I'm not joking here, for reals. I mean, what does he have to gain by being president? Because there's many people that, I mean, of course, mostly political people. I think a majority political people, the left absolutely hates him. Democrats absolutely hate him because he's doing all the things that they said they'd accomplish just to gain the vote. And they ultimately could not fulfill their promises. And so they continued to lie to the American people on medical, Medicaid, Medicare, drug prescription prices, taxes. All of these Democrats, they continued to lie to the American people just to get their vote, and yet they never followed through. So there's a select few presidents that were able to follow through slightly, not entirely, but not to the extent of Trump. Trump has gone to the lengths to get really the American people back on their feet. Because all of what we've seen over the last 50 to 60 years has been a complete downfall of America because of the way that Democrats were spending our resources and putting their time and effort and other things, especially other countries, which is unfortunate because it makes us poorer and makes everybody else richer. Or rather, we're not even helping our own citizens. They were not helping us people, Americans. You say they're not directed by Iran. Iran doesn't tell Yemen to target this or that. They're funded by Iran. And they're probably given directive by Iran to continue doing what they're doing. If they're getting funding, of course, they're being told what to do. Most certainly, they're being told what to do. It might not be specifics. I mean, we don't really know exactly how Iran operates, yet we do know that they have proxies within the region. And their proxies are to, like, for example, could be a general directive to Yemen, hey, attack any ship that comes through the canal, Panama Canal. And so they'll fund them with Yemen is one of the poorest countries, right? Yet they're able to have all of these sophisticated rockets. I mean, their civilian population is completely in terrible shape. So, of course, Iran has to direct them to do what generally to do, right? It's just as the same with Hezbollah and many of their other proxies in that region, which they call the Ring of Fire. And so, let's see, you say we do better under Democrats historically. That's absolutely not true. You say the economy always does better under Dems. Why is that the case? Give me some examples. What has been beneficial for the American people under Democrats? You say highest spending of tax money is military spending, which is bipartisan, not Democrat. And it's interesting because even the things that the military buys, you can say like even like a little bolt, a nut, will cost, you can buy just at Home Depot for about, I don't know, a couple bucks, $1, whatever. But an individual item for the military would cost about $100 per item. Why that is, who the heck knows? So all of these things are being looked into most certainly. That's the whole point of DOGE, isn't it? I mean, DOGE is to help see where we can cut. You say, how are tax cuts for the rich going to help the working class? Well, look, it's going to help because you're taxing the rich more. You're going to relieve some of the middle class of taxes, right? And there's literally only 1% of people that are in this insane tax bracket of 39%. Well, it's 37. It's going to raise to 39, so essentially 40. But overall, this only will work if there is severe cuts. This really will only work if there is cuts. If there's no cuts, if there's no cutting in the budget, really nothing's going to work. That's not going to work, essentially. Yeah, I agree with that. So you say, who was the last president to balance the budget? Do you know? Or you don't know because you don't know anything. We are not in control. I don't know anything about Yemeni people. Yeah, we have never been able to balance the budget. I'll say that much. Now, we're working to do that, most certainly. Will we successfully do that? We have no idea. I think the Yemeni people, I think that the thing about the drugs that they take, I think it's called khat, if I'm not mistaken. But the Yemeni people, what do you mean? What is it that I don't know about the Yemeni people? You tell me, since you know so much. Well, I mean, you don't claim to know anything about them. You're just saying, I don't know anything about the Yemeni people. I think it's just a generalized statement. But he says, who do you think owns the companies providing jobs? That's to Spamo. Let's see. He moved on from my statement about being protected by his political cronies. Well, I'm trying to catch all the comments here, but like I said, who are those political cronies that were protecting him? List the names. Haven't seen the economy be or do better under Democrats. I have been around since Carter. Yeah. Historical data indicates that the U.S. economy has generally performed better under Democratic presidents compared to Republican presidents across several key metrics. Well, look, Democrats have been in control for well over 40 years. Just a safe number. And in those 40 years, Republicans have been in control very, very little span of time. I'm sure we can pull up the metrics, but Democrats have been in control for quite some time now. And so the historical data that you're pointing out, which you can most certainly give us, some kind of reference that we can look at as far as documentation for that. So we're at where we are because of the Democratic control, the Democratic Party, and inputting the policies that they've given us in the past, leading up to Joe Biden and now President Trump. Of course, we see, here's the thing. President Trump stepped in 2016, okay, after his term. Biden undid all of the things that America was being prosperous for. He undid the being energy dependent, or being energy efficient in the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Self-dependent on our own energy resources. So oil. There was some implementations that he was doing with the Abrahamic Accords. There's so much that we can look at his 2016 campaign, or his 2016 presidency. Looking backward, he was trying to fix the problems that were already in place. The things from the Democratic president. This is from Obama. This is from Clinton. This is from George Bush. This is from several other presidents before that. And then Biden comes in, puts all these executive orders to undo the things that Trump did. You can do all the research. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to claim to know every piece bit by bit. But essentially, Biden undid those things that President Trump had done. It's unfortunate. Say, how are you taxing the rich more? Oh, lost my spot. My goodness. Haven't seen the, okay. Last president to balance the budget was Bill Clinton. How true is that? Okay, that's where I was. Historical data, okay. It's not being looked into. Doge doesn't cut anything but Social Security and social programs for the poorest people in the country. That is absolutely not true. That is not what they're doing. You see, when we look at the whole, this is kind of getting way off topic of what we're intending to talk about, but as far as Social Security, I mean, we have people using Social Securities of babies that are 2 weeks old. Is that the case? 2 months old, around that? And not only that, people who have already passed away, or unless they've should have received by now a Guinness World Record of being the oldest citizen alive. I think the oldest that we've seen of a Social Security still being utilized is 170, 160, around that. So all this money, where's it going? I mean, they're pointing it out. This is the stuff that needs to be cut. This is the way that the government has been running has not been very efficient. And so this is what Doge is doing. Doge is making things, or at least trying to set programs in place to make the government more efficient, because the government is doing things in a very outdated fashion, especially when termination, people that are waiting on their retirements. And we saw that whole thing with the way that they process retirements, and it took, they wouldn't really process any. It would be like 10 a year, I think it was. Say here, job growth, recessions. I'm not sure what that was too. Bill Clinton balanced the budget. We'll have to look into that. I'll look into that. It seems to be the consensus of many of you saying Bill Clinton. So, hey, look, I'll take your word for it. But I'll look into it. Gog is in control. Hey, that is a interesting point you make there. Gog is most certainly not in control, though. God is, however. G-O-G, Gog, no. God, yes. Jackie, I'm not terrified to read your comments. I'm reading your comments right now. I said, and they are lying about how much money they are saving. How are they lying about how much money they are saving? Do you know they're lying? Like, can you read into their minds? I have no idea. Like, where's the grounding in that statement? All right. Let's get back to the comments. Now, let's see exactly what's so important about this Saudi Arabia meeting, because we've got some deals going down with this whole Saudi Arabia visit in the first place. And I think it's important to take a look at.
All right, thank you very much, you guys. Good afternoon. I'm Martha McCallum, and this is the story breaking right now. President Trump's extraordinary trip to Saudi Arabia. He is at a state dinner right now. You can bet that it is very elaborate based on what we saw in terms of his welcome as he begins his 4-day swing through the Middle East. The goal on this stop, $1 trillion of investment in the U.S. by the Saudis. So far, they have locked in $600 billion in terms of the commitment from Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to invest in everything from defense to infrastructure for AI, a really big part of this trip as well. MBS has suggested that they will get to that $1 trillion mark in investment in time. President Trump given a royal welcome. Arabian stallions escorted the president's vehicle. And how about this? A custom-built mobile McDonald's truck was rolled out for the president's time in Saudi Arabia.
By the way, probably way more healthier than America's McDonald's, most certainly. Most certainly. You should not take anything from Saudi. Well, we're going to get into that, the whole plane deal. We're almost there. We're almost there, guys. We're going to get into this whole plane thing. Some of his remarks on the plane. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. So you can't just fire people. That's not efficiency savings. A study should be done to determine how to better run a department. Yeah, look, some of these students that actually left prestigious schools, and they were ridiculed for what they're doing into being part of the Doge team. Some very young, very brilliant kids that are behind this Doge operation. And they are, they're smart. So when we're talking about the firing of people, are you going to have, I don't know, over 100 and what's the number you put out there? Over 150 people not being efficient, and you just keep the ones that are utilizing the ones that this is the whole. We get into all the data, right? You get into the data of employees being efficient. Okay, I'll tell you this story here. I might butcher it a little bit, but there's a story about a man who works in, it's actually a guy I know. He used to work in as IT, and he was one of the best in the business. Now, this company had hired a guy who was, had all the qualifications, still fairly new in the game. And essentially, he goes in and the boss is trying to figure out why this employee is not very efficient, right? And so the guy looks into the data and says, "Oh, he's constantly browsing." And this young guy in this IT world, he looks at the data and says, "Oh, he's just browsing the internet day in, day out for hours on end. He's not even doing his job." Now, of course, they call in the experienced IT guy and basically says, "Okay, well, look," because he's friends with the boss. He says, "Look, let me take a look into it. Let me check this guy's information, because I can guarantee you that this guy is what the data that he is coming to the conclusion on is not accurate." So he goes in, he checks and analyzes the data, and he says, "Look, this is not the guy browsing internet for hours on end. He's actually got a music player in the background while he's working. He's actually, we can take a look at the camera footage," and they do, and they see that the guy is not even at his desk. He's got the music player going. You see him. He's actually one of the most efficient employees in the actual company. And so this new guy was taught a lesson that he was looking into data. He was looking at the wrong kind of data. But I say all this to say that you got to be looking at the right kind of data to see what kind of employees are actually being efficient. You can see all this data that is logged on the computers, especially company computers. All this data, all the things that they're doing, government computers, mind you, are being logged. And so with these people can do is they can essentially look at all the employees and see exactly who's being efficient. And they can then say, okay, well, this person is obviously not being efficient. This person is not even in the office at all, right? Because Trump had to issue the fact that any government federal employee needs to be in office. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But let's continue on here.
As well, you can bet he was looking forward to taking part in that. And you can hear a rendition of God Bless the USA as the president took the stage for these remarks as he heralded the growing strength of the new Middle East.
The new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence.
Big message there in that soundbite that you just heard. Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy following it all live from Riyadh. Hi, Peter.
And Martha, as far as Trump deals have gone since he got back to office in January, today's actually seemed like it was pretty easy. He came in on Air Force One. He talked about how he thought that $600 billion was pretty good, but that he wanted $1 trillion. And then about 4 hours later, that is exactly what the Crown Prince.
By the way, you say the
pledged.
chat roasting the host, and they are instead too busy chatting that they can't even hear the story. So they're saying, get to the point, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Horrible storyteller. That is funny. Anyway, yet you guys are still here listening, so I appreciate that. Thanks.
In the coming months, we will work on second phase to finalize the remaining agreement to raise them to $1 trillion.
So you say, by the way, why the hell Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Larry Fink went to Saudi? Because the deals that they invested into the United States dealt with AI and technology. So, of course, Trump possibly, maybe his idea, maybe his team's idea to invite them to this visit. The only one that I didn't know Sam Altman was there. The only clip or picture that I've seen was of, or actually it was a video of Elon Musk there. So I didn't know Sam Altman was there.
That was easy. And it wasn't just about business deals.
So let's go back, because I don't know if you caught that.
To work. In the coming months, we will work on second phase to finalize the remaining agreement to raise them to $1 trillion.
So we're getting to that point, so where the Saudi Arabia Crown Prince stated that he wants to bring us the $1 trillion investment because, of course, Saudi Arabia, seeing the tremendous benefit from investing into the United States economy in order to bolster their own economy, they're going to see a huge benefit for them in the long term. Many might say, well, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, is that something that you would think that they might be saying? I mean, a lot of people are questioning why any country would want to invest in the United States, considering the sort of position that they were in the last 4 years. How could they? I mean, we've been largely a consumer economy, which everybody strives to be a consumer economy, but we don't want to just rely on other countries to manufacture our goods. We want to also be the body that manufactures our goods. So not just the brains of the sort of culture that we bring, the economy. We don't want to just be the brain, which is the software engineers, the people who deal with that sort of aspect of our economy. We want the people to be also the body that manufactures the items. Apple has already invested. Many car companies have already invested into the United States economy to build plants to manufacture chips in the US. And now we have other nations, of course, Saudi Arabia. This was that whole meeting there, and they bring all of this, and you guys are saying, well, you don't know Middle Eastern, or you don't know Middle East, referring to me, that I don't know Middle Eastern anything. I don't know their culture. I mean, I have somewhat of an idea of their culture based on some of the friends that I have and some of the stories that I've heard and the sort of culture that I've been around with Middle Eastern families. And the case is typically that when somebody offers, we'll get to the whole plane thing. All right, I'll get there. I'll get there. Okay. So let's just finish this point off. $1 trillion. We're going to get there. We're going to see huge investment on that. And now, finally, we're going to talk about this whole Trump receiving a whole plane nonsense that everybody's saying, oh, well, he's being bought off, paid off, whatever. You say now iPhones will cost $5,000. Not true. They might be a little bit more expensive, but they'll be the quality. Look, would you rather pay for a cheaper phone that you'll have to replace every year like iPhone does? iPhone 16, 16 SE, 16, whatever. You get all these additions before you get to the 17. You have to keep manufacturing these products. It says designed in California, not made in California, designed in California. You have all these parts that are manufactured outside of the country. There's this whole thing going on about Trump talking about dolls. And many people are getting upset about the fact that he said, well, you don't need these 15-year-old girls don't need 30, 40, 50 dolls. Better that they have 5 or 10. Well, it's true. You get all these dolls that are made from China. I mean, they're going to be absolutely trash. They're going to be trash. They're going to be tossed and thrown away within about a week because their body parts are falling off. Their hair is all pulled out. So much nonsense that happens with just cheap toys. I see it all the time, especially when you have birthday parties for your children. And they which of course you're grateful that they're getting gifts, but you see that the gifts are generally the cheap gifts. And that's, they're trying to be kind. They're trying to be nice by giving the child a gift. But it's like, wouldn't you want to give a child a gift that lasts longer? One that is American made? So yeah, you don't want iPhones that are made elsewhere and that you have to replace, have all these different generations of iPhones because, whatever. You want actual quality iPhones to be made in America. No, I am not Muslim. I have been told that I look Arab. Instead of a free plane or government got. Not sure what you mean by that. I don't think you have to replace them every year. I've had the same iPhone for years. Technology is not where the attention for the economy should be on. Why not? I think we should emphasize build our technological infrastructure, especially on things like AI, because we're seeing that we're getting completely destroyed by people like people from China being hacked. I mean, this was a secure meeting that the Biden administration was told by Chinese officials. This was private, that they indeed hacked the United States. And they told the incoming Trump administration, this is a Wall Street Journal article that you could find. And they told them that, yeah, we did hack. We hacked your infrastructure. We hacked your civilian infrastructure. Not only that, right? And yeah, we're very vulnerable when it comes to attacks from outside the country, especially with the advancement of AI and all these types of things. But he says you can give him 1,000 airplanes, he'd say thank you and still do whatever he thinks is right. He's literally too rich to be bought out. Yeah, I mean, his income has dropped significantly. His net worth has dropped. I think his net worth, if that's the word I'm thinking of, has dropped $2 billion. Or that, or his income, whatever it is. slipping my mind. It says cheap toys are just that, cheap toys. They are same quality, the same quality everywhere else. We need to go back on the silver standard. Nothing else is going to work with our monopoly money. Yeah, we actually do need to go back with backed currency. I agree with that. Gold backed currency, silver currency. Some Americans make high quality products like Ford. Ford might not have all of its parts made in America, especially the chips that are. Most of our cars are basically, if not all of them, are the processors inside the cars are made from China or Taiwan or elsewhere. American made doesn't mean good. How do you know? You're implying iPhones will be manufactured less frequently if made in the US? Not necessarily, but I think the quality of the iPhone will be better if they are manufactured in the US. Possibly better glass, better materials. Of course, it not only the fact that the item itself will be manufactured better, but the fact that it's bolstering the American economy, building these things or manufacturing these things inside of America. It's not just about the item being better. That's like a sort of benefit. The trade-off is, of course, paying a little bit more for something that is manufactured in America because we're bolstering our own economy. But all of this ties into more money in our pockets and more jobs for America. Because we've shipped all of these jobs outside of our country. It's unfortunate. We don't want to do that. We don't want to ship these jobs outside the United States. We want to bring those jobs back. Many people lost jobs because these jobs were being shipped out by big companies. So you're saying here, forget toys. Can we get some relief with the cost of our groceries? Electric bill, $100 more under Trump. He gets new plane. We get nothing. Egg prices still high. No, actually, egg prices have dropped about $2, $1 to $2, I believe it is. And most certainly going to continue dropping because of our energy independence that he's pushing for. The big, beautiful bill will include some tax cuts that they're proposing. That's going to be beneficial for those doing overtime, those getting tips. And things like energy efficiency for our homes, such as refrigerators, home appliances, a lot of those things. Trump just signed an executive order that deals with home appliances and things like faucets, things like the gas heater, things like the shower heads, all this stuff that was energy efficient under the Biden administration actually made things worse. So you're taking longer showers, you're washing dishes longer because it's supposed to, these new faucets, these new, or rather the way that they implemented these regulations were to cut the waste of water. Yet you're being restricted from water, so you're having to take longer showers. You're having to wash dishes a lot longer. So there's no efficiency there at all. How much are they paying you to sell us this crap? Absolutely $0. Eggs way down from December. Crybabies. Yeah. Eggs are way down. Way down since, actually they weren't down. They were complaining as soon as Trump got into office. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they're from the December price. Yes, they're down. They're down. I get what you're saying, but it's funny because these Democrats were complaining that eggs had not dropped in price, and he'd only been in office, I think, about a week? Gosh, Gosh, I keep losing my spot. Let's see. Okay, I'll get to the rest of the comments here, but let's look at this whole big deal about Trump accepting a plane, Qatari plane from Saudi Arabia. Is he being bought off? What do you guys think? Is he being bought off by Saudi Arabia? Just let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Possibly, maybe. Anyway.
President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not leave
only ABC? Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. Then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received anything?
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. Here is the bill. Bobby, come on over here.
That is wild. I mean, he just straight up said that your network is a disaster, and yet it is. It is an absolute disaster. And so this gift, why would you not receive a gift from, especially this Middle Eastern country that offers, as Trump says, this is for the Department of Defense. Now, of course, Boeing has not made a new Air Force One plane for him to ride on, of course. So there's not going to be any new planes. It's been over 40 years since they had that plane. Boeing, there's no plans for Boeing to build a new one. And most certainly is Trump going to use this Qatari plane? Most certainly not. It's not going to happen. There could be technologies in there possibly to be able to track every movement where he is, whatever. It could be many things. But even then, he's still going to accept the plane. And when you understand Middle Eastern culture about gifts, you don't deny, especially a gift that is so expensive and high dollar value, you don't deny somebody their gift. Because it's basically like, it's disrespectful. He's essentially spitting in their face and saying, no, thank you. Right? Spitting in their face and saying no. What a disgraceful gift. That's something you don't do with Middle Eastern culture. You might, there's a story here of a pastor who goes and every time they would go to this Middle Eastern shop, they would do, buy their goods, and they would go and visit every now and again because they would have these trips to Israel. A lot of Arab shops that are there. And they would buy these goods and they would eventually, they'd come back and they'd remember them and they would say, oh, look, after everybody buys, all the congregation, all the people stop by, they buy all the things that they want to buy. He's the last one in the store and they say, look, pick anything you want. Yeah, no, it's okay. No, they insist, pick anything you want. Decides to go for the more cheaper gift, to say, no, go for the best thing that we have. And even if he doesn't want it, he still grabs something that he sees and then gives that to somebody else in his congregation. Of course, they won't know it, but they have felt this need to give a gift because they've always brought them business. They've always been there to buy from them. This is Pastor Jeff. If you don't know Pastor Jeff, this is he was a pastor of Calvary Chapel Downey, passed away recently, and amazing pastor. Amazing pastor. You say, let's see, Every time you start reading the comments, I regret it. I could start regretting it, but why let any of this comments get to me? It's kind of funny. He's a complete total nut. The people have a complete nut, a convicted felon. Leave them. They couldn't convict them on any charges. And accepting the gift, it actually gives Trump more leverage in the Middle East because it's a message to the Middle East from Qatar's position after all these conflicts emerge. Qatar, power play, bait and switch. Yes, presidents do give gifts to one another, and Obama received a lot of expensive things for himself, not for American Defense Department. It is true. It's not just the fact that this is Trump that he's getting a gift. You make a great point there, Brenda. Make a great point there. America and the leaders of America that have gone to other nations, even J.D. Vance going over to, where was it? India with his wife. They were treated really well. It was not just Trump and the Republican Party, whatever. It's many other presidents that have been in charge of the United States of America that have received favor from other nations because they recognize and they realize that America is a strong nation and they want to show respect. So yes, of course, it has something to do with the fact that America receives a lot of respect from other nations because they're so strong militarily, so strong economically. America is very powerful. We understand that, and that is a very great point that you bring out there. And many other people, presidents, have accepted other things from other nations. He's not the first, most certainly. But anything that Trump does, it's always scrutinized under a microscope, and they see and they analyze it all, and they try to make this big fuss about something that's been done in the past already. I mean, granted, they have never been given gifts and planes from the Middle East, but would there be some kind of gift? Paid off several people in court is what you're saying. What are those people that he paid off in court? Instead of giving them a gift, why not pay the victims of 9/11? Turns out it wasn't Saudi Arabia that was if that's what you're referring to, it wasn't Saudi Arabia that caused the 9/11 attack. How about paying the firefighters that they are still living healthcare, that's suffering from all the popular, that sentence is a little bit out of whack there. Let's see. Congress does not have to approve any gifts. What do you mean? I'm saying when I say gifts, these people are treated American. And we can go ahead and look at all the things that have been given to American leaders. It's something that it's not a foreign thing to us. But they are treated well. They are treated with respect. America's leaders, that is. Let's see here. Obama got a boyfriend. Yeah, that's possibly true. That's possibly true. Michael. He paid off that woman that accused him of rape. Stormy Daniels, is that who you're referring to? Because she turned out to be not a reliable source, or rather turned out to be lying on that whole case. I mean, all that is public. Reliable source. She's not a witness. She is the victim, claiming to be the victim, yet she was not reliable from the get-go. That all of the claims were deemed false. Gold gifts to Obama from France. There you go. He can decline it, and he can say it was forbidden by law, as it truly is. Hence, what law though? What law are you talking about? Gifts. Otherwise, we wouldn't have received the Statue of Liberty. That was gifted. Many other things. Hence, no offense by just adding abiding by the law, even then, if this would be disrespectful. The whole world politician have to return expensive gifts to prevent corruption. There's no, it's a gift. Like, people think that there has to be something tied to a gift. What is a gift? What is a gift? A gift is something that has nothing to return with something that is given. Do we forget? How far have we fallen from the understanding of a gift? It's like God saying, right? God says, I give you the gift of salvation, yet it can be taken back. Or you have to work for this salvation. No, the salvation is unmerited, unearned favor from the Lord who gives you this gift of salvation through the death of his son on the cross. This is fundamental to the ultimate gift giver. He does not require anything for this gift in return, other than the fact that you simply receive Christ as your Lord and your Savior and walk according to how Christ walks. Interesting. Yeah. So, guys, this whole thing about, the airplane being this bribe, not even the case. Now, lastly, we'll look at some of this information with regards to the U.S. and China reaching an agreement. This is Scott Bessent, Secretary of Treasury. We're going to look at this last item here and see exactly what this agreement entails. Very important stuff.
The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that. We would like to see China open to more U.S. goods. We expect that as the negotiations proceed, that there will also be a possibility of purchase agreements to pull what is our largest bilateral trade deficit into balance. That has gotten out of balance, and much of this has happened through neglect over the past 4 years, as the previous administration did not engage on this issue.
Scott Bessent there. Well, let's get some analysis from our...
Yeah, so I think we're coming to this sort of, hopefully, an end to this China-United States tariff war. People are most certainly on this train to say that this is going to hurt the American economy by cutting China off or increasing tariffs by this percentage of 124, 125%. But it was only damaging the Chinese economy all the more because, as a lot of experts have said, that if you do this type of thing, the U.S. economy will struggle. Yet it turns out that that is not the truth, right? We want to stop relying on China. Again, going back to the whole point of the whole manufacturing things, right? We don't want to just be the consumer economy. Although it is a good thing to be, we want to be both. Consumer and a manufacturing economy. This is very important to being strong globally. And we're seeing all of this turn around. It's turning around because there's so many countries and so many companies making an investment into the United States of America, because we're seeing, and as I've said before, a delayed gratified effect, delayed gratitude, or not delayed gratitude, delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is that we're not going to see this instant gratification of, well, let's just, we'll let China keep doing its thing. We'll keep consuming. We won't make and manufacture parts and things in America. And we're going to get this sort of instant gratification of instant profit. Yet it doesn't get us further than where we need to be. We need to be an economy that provides our own manufacturing to build our economy, to give jobs back to the American people, to stop shipping jobs overseas, so that we can be strong as before. And this is something that Trump is taking a huge, I wouldn't say gamble on, but essentially it is a risk, taking these tariffs on and increasing all these tariffs. People could have easily flocked to China if they wanted to rely upon them to manufacture their goods or to be their sort of daddy. But Trump took the risk and said, no, you know what? I'm going to raise taxes or tariffs on all of these countries, and they will have to come to a deal with me sooner or later. And yet, look what happened. We saw that all these countries started to come right. They wanted to start talking deals. They wanted to start, and the biggest deal that was made with UK just a week ago. They're going to start purchasing more from America. We'll start trading more. Tariffs will go down for America. Tariffs will increase slightly for UK. Trump is trying to level the playing field so that everybody can be, so that America can be respected, essentially, because America has been disrespected for the last 40 to 60 years. In the sense that they have all these regulations on the United States so that we can't sell anything in there. It's really hard to sell anything in these foreign countries. I mean, we've got things cereals that are basically 2 ingredients away from being petroleum. We have ingredients in food like chicken nuggets that basically there's chemicals in there or ingredients in there that are used for roads, essentially. So you say here, Paul Salas, MAGA is back in business. Essentially, you are correct. Because tariffs, as you say, Mr. Boesky, tariffs are looking to be terrific. Yes. Democrats, they're eating tampon Tim Walz. Your message was retracted probably by YouTube, and I hope my whole video is not retracted from YouTube. But anyway, with that being said, I think it's time to end the stream here, guys, because it has been wild. You guys are absolutely crazy and phenomenal. Some of you that are in the comments that understand the truth behind the matter of everything. You understand and you're open to hear the things that are happening. Really the truth that lies, the truth prevails at all. God is on the throne. God is orchestrating all of this stuff. And we are seeing a total and complete change within America. We're seeing a complete change in how America deals with its allies and enemies. This truly, and it really is grace from God. It's mercy from God, from the judgment that we were facing the last 4 years under Biden administration, which his handlers were mostly the ones in control. Biden was just the face of it all. And they tried to elect Kamala Harris, yet they failed miserably. So we must fight for this. We must fight for America to be a nation that is independent from these other nations. Let's bring back manufacturing to America. Let's bring back the strength of America. Let's bring back the will of essentially the people in leading America. not the other way around. We want to shrink government. We don't want to increase government. Government is too much bloat in government. And so everybody's got a different point. Everybody's got a different understanding about all this stuff. Brenda, you say, nice to listen to you and your understanding. Blessings, brother. Thank you. May God bless you. So much information here. Guys, thank you so much for being here. If you guys like what you heard, if you guys don't, I don't know, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to check out all the other videos. Subscribe, like, share the video. Let's get the word out. Let's really fight for what America should be, and that is great. We need to make America great again. And this is something that we need to wait for the gratification to come in the long term. So invest in the long term. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm saying invest in America in the long term. Okay, I'm just saying, look ahead. America's got a bright future ahead if we continue on this insane train ride that we are on. Don't jump ship just yet. America is back in business. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining me.